Have you ever wondered about these cases of miraculous healing? Why does it happen to some people and not to others? And do these people have anything in common that they did to heal? Well, it turns out that there are plenty of these cases that are written about in the medical journals that we just don't know about, and they're called spontaneous remissions. And there are doctors who have actually spent years studying them. So I discovered these stories when I was really struggling to heal from cancer, and I just needed to find hope and inspiration. And so after watching countless of interviews of survivor stories and reading books, especially one called Radical Hope by Dr. Kelly Turner and another book called Cured by Dr. Jeffrey Rediger, I realized that there are common things that these people did to heal, and that the spontaneous healings didn't really seem that spontaneous after all. So in this video, I'm going to share these 7 key healing factors with you, and I've used them all in my own journey with stage 4 cancer, and I found that they've all been crucial to my success in my healing so far. So it's my mission to spread this knowledge so that you too may find hope and inspiration and your own path to healing. If you're new here, my name is Nate, and I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in 2016, and through the 7 years of living with cancer, I've been relentless in my search for a formula that would lead to healing from the inside out, in mind, body, and spirit. And I started this channel to not only document my journey, but to share all of my experiences with you, because that's the whole point. So please support my channel by hitting the like and subscribe button. So let's begin. Number 1 is to empower yourself. This is probably one of the most important key factors because it serves as a backbone for all of the other factors. You need to understand that you are in charge of your own health. The sooner you realize that, the faster you can take actionable steps towards your healing. We're trained to believe that doctors know best, and in a way they do, but they may not have all of the answers all of the time. Doctors are not the expert in you, and only you can be the expert in you. I know this personally because I'm a doctor myself, and I've been on both sides of the coin, on one hand as a patient and on the other hand as the one providing care to patients. So in my busy practice, no matter how much I want to figure out the root cause of disease in my patients, there just isn't enough time or resources to delve deeper. And unfortunately, that's just how our medical system works right now. So until this changes, we all have to just take a proactive approach in our care in order to get better. We can't just react when things get bad or wait until the disease has progressed so far that it's nearly impossible to recover from it. People who recover from illness tend to be labeled as the difficult patient because they will ask questions. They do their own research. They request second or even third opinions before making any decisions. And they take an active role in their health instead of just letting their doctors make all of the decisions. They're also willing to make drastic changes even when it's hard or when it's considered unconventional. And oftentimes this will lead to resistance from their friends and family and their healthcare team. Like when I was diagnosed with cancer, I tried to be a good patient by being passive and not questioning my oncologist. But after getting burned a few times, like when the radiologist missed new tumors in my scans and just failed to report their progression, which led to both myself and my oncologist ignoring the symptoms that I had. And by the time the pain got worse, I already had irreversible damage. I realized that by me trying to be polite and not be a pushy or noisy patient, it caused me unnecessary pain and suffering and 2 femur surgeries. So the takeaway here is to have a healthy amount of concern for your symptoms when they arise, to listen to your body, and to try and push for answers. Make sure you do your research and make informed decisions. Don't worry about the pressure and the fear to have to make decisions right away. You have to feel good about the decisions you make, because the more faith that you have that the treatment will work for you, the higher the possibility that it will actually work for you. Empowering yourself takes you from a fearful and helpless state, operating in the victim mindset, to having more power and control over your life and diagnosis. Number 2 is diet and supplements. In these cases of spontaneous healing, the survivors always make a drastic change to their diet and find supplements and herbs to support their healing. There's just no one size fits all when it comes to the best diet out there, but like Michael Pollan said, eat food, not too much, and mostly plants. So the common factors that the food consumed should be highly nutrient dense, whole foods, organic, and mostly plant-based. I came across a book called Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Fuhrman that highlights this. He calls it a nutritarian diet, which is very simple. You choose the most nutrient-dense foods to eat, and you can eat as much of it as you'd like. It gets rid of the stress of having to count calories because you really can't overeat these foods that are just packed with vitamins and minerals. I mean, try overeating broccoli. It just won't happen. On the other hand, overeating empty calorie foods like potato chips and cake, candy, soda, it's much easier because our bodies digest them quickly and the feeling of fullness doesn't last very long, leading to overconsumption of calories. So foods with these empty calories are highly addictive and they can lead to withdrawal symptoms when you stop eating them. So you'll end up with a lot of cravings because these foods just don't have anything to offer or nourish our cells. So once we switch to eating nutrient-dense foods and get through that withdrawal period, the cravings will actually disappear. The other factor is how we prepare our food and consume our food, as well as the relationship that we have with the food, which is just as important as what we choose to eat. During my cancer journey, my diet changed a ton depending on how I'm feeling. Sometimes I can eat more raw foods, other times I need warm and cooked foods, and sometimes I eat more carbs, other times I eat more meats and fish. So at first I was super strict and rigid in my eating habits, and this just was not healthy at all. Anytime I cheated, I would have so much guilt and shame and worry that my cancer would grow because I veered off my diet. So preparing my food and eating, it just seemed like a chore. I wanted to just shove the food down my throat and be done with it already. And I just didn't care about the taste of it. Oftentimes I would just eat quickly, barely chewing my food, and I even ate standing up, as I'm sure a lot of you do. And I realized that this was really counterproductive and I felt burnt out, and eating this way was almost like a punishment. And it just took me years to learn from my mistakes and learn how to change my relationship with food. So now I spend more time preparing my meals and I make it taste good and pleasing to the eye. I make sure to sit down and give myself at least 30 minutes to eat, and I remember to chew my food. I'm grateful for the food and I imagine it nourishing my body. I no longer feel guilty when I cheat because I know I'm not perfect. I just pick myself back up and get back on track the next day, which then actually leads to less cheating in the long run. I listen to my body and I follow my intuition to eat the foods that my body needs at the time. Supplements are a little bit trickier because they can interact with conventional treatment, and the quality of the supplements varies so much that it's best to work with an integrative or a naturopathic doctor to help choose the right supplements for you. Food is your medicine, and it's important to first feed your body with the right types of food before you start taking every supplement under the sun. Changing your diet is kind of like a gateway drug to changing other habits that will help you in your healing. Number 3 is exercise. So physical activity in the form of exercise and movement of the body is one of the common things that all survivors do. There are a lot of types of exercise, like you have aerobic exercises like running, cycling, swimming, brisk walking, and then you have strength training like going to the gym to lift weights and build muscles. And you have interval training like HIIT or high intensity interval training. And then you have other exercises like yoga that helps with balance and flexibility. So what is the best type of exercise? The exercise that you like doing and are capable of doing depending on your current physical status. When you're diagnosed with cancer or another debilitating medical condition, your energy and physical condition can wax or wane quite a bit, depending on what you're doing for treatment and whether that treatment is working for you. So therefore, it's important to push yourself, but at the same time, just don't overdo it. I mean, when I had tumors that were growing in my spine, I was in so much pain that I could barely walk or bend over, let alone try to run after my kids and pick them up. At one point, I even had this pathological fracture in my L4 vertebra in my low back that really limited my capacity to exercise as I normally would. So I had to get creative and find a way to move my body. I ended up swimming instead of walking, jogging, or doing yoga like I usually would, because swimming is a non-weight bearing activity that I could still benefit from. And at the same time, it would protect my back from any further injuries. So as I started to heal and get better, I returned to doing what I loved, which is going for hikes and doing yoga again. After I got my femur surgeries, I had to start with really low impact exercises. I had to start using a walker and crutches, and then I used one crutch and I started to walk around my neighborhood, and I built myself up so that I could keep walking further and further. And then finally I was able to go back to the gym and to build back my muscle. I really had to push myself hard because otherwise the recovery would have been a lot slower than what it would have been. So no matter how bad your physical condition is, you can always move your body. You just have to make more progress than the day before. Moving your body signals to your body that you're alive. Like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by all means, keep moving. Number 4 is emotional healing. So this includes healing your identity and your past traumas, changing your beliefs, releasing suppressed emotions, increasing your positive emotions, and changing your perspective and relationship with stress. This is no simple task, and for me, this part was the most challenging, yet the most rewarding at the same time. It's like cleaning out your attic after just years of letting dust collect in there. You find a lot of garbage that you really need to just throw out, but then you also find some hidden treasures that you'd forgotten about. The key is to throw out what you no longer need and to hang on to the precious things that you found. Before the cancer diagnosis, I thought that I was such a happy person and had no issues whatsoever. But when I got sick, I started to question why I got sick and if I could have contributed to it in any way. And if I did play a role in creating my illness in my body, then I could also play a role in getting well again. So this led me to really put on my gloves and dig through my attic to see what I could find. And I read a book called When the Body Says No by Dr. Gabor Mate. I realized that I must have suppressed emotions that are stored in my body from past traumas, which led to the disease forming. I mean, we're all made of energy, and grief and trauma actually get stored in different parts of our bodies. They become blockages that lead to the energy getting stuck and not being able to flow freely through our bodies, which then leads to imbalances and ultimately disease. I used a lot of different tools to get to the root cause of my illness, like reading a lot of self-help books, journaling, self-inquiry, and then I worked with a few different therapists. I identified and released suppressed emotions through Dr. Bradley Nelson's work, which is written in his book called The Emotion Code. I also went to acupuncture and did some other forms of energy healing like Reiki. It took a lot of time and effort to heal the surface layers, which helped, but eventually I kind of hit a wall and I felt that I wasn't progressing anymore with this talk therapy and self-help books. And I instinctively knew that in order to truly heal, I would need to access something much deeper, which is kind of like this little black box that gets buried deep in the subconscious mind, that you need to work on to uncover. So this is where hypnosis and meditations really help me. During hypnosis and deep meditation, what you're doing is that you're slowing down your brain waves to get to the alpha or theta brainwave states. The theta brainwaves are the dominant frequency for healing, creativity, remembering emotional experiences, memory retrieval, and encoding new memories. So it's really from this place that you're able to access your subconscious mind and make the changes necessary to heal. You're also healing your nervous system from the profound relaxation that the meditation practices can bring. So having a chronic illness like cancer means that you have a chronic stress response that's causing inflammation. Therefore, we have to change our relationship with stress and look at it through different lenses. I really think that perspective is key because the same thing could seem stressful to one person, but not really be stressful to another person. For example, when I was driving home from work from a conference one day where I had to wake up super early to drive and I was so tired, I thought to myself how miserable I am that I have to work a full-time job while dealing with stage 4 cancer. Then it just dawned on me that I was able to drive and walk despite just having surgery and that no one at the work conference even knew what I was going through. I had a job and I was able to work. I had money. So my perspective quickly shifted for this gratitude of being able to still function and work normally despite living with a serious condition. I reminded myself that I'm so much more than my illness. I could still enjoy life and pursue my goals and passions and care for my loved ones even when I have cancer. So this perspective change really, really helped me deal with stress from a whole different angle. So you just have to change your thoughts and perceptions into making something more positive. Number 5 is having a spiritual connection. Having a spiritual practice and connecting to something that's greater than yourself is incredibly important in healing. This can be any daily practice that leads to a calm and peaceful state, like a quiet walk in nature, painting, walking your dog, going to the church, the temple, or mosque, practicing yoga, meditation, or mindfulness. Human beings are spiritual beings that live in a physical body. Just as our body has needs like water, air, and food, our spirit has needs too, and that's love. And it's not just any kind of love, but unconditional love. If our needs are not met, we can become ill. And the problem is that we look for unconditional love in the wrong places. We look to our spouse and our parents, our children, our friends, our coworkers, but we have to understand that the love we get from other humans are conditional, and it's based on giving to receive. When it's transactional like that, it almost always leads to disappointment, through failed expectations at some point, and it can lead to conflict. So this was the biggest lesson for me. I realized that I was dependent on others for my own happiness. This means that I was under their control. I needed to please them and manipulate them so that I could get what I wanted. I gave so I could get something back in return. I made decisions based on a gain or loss perspective, wanting to win and get my way. And this is how our ego operates, and connecting with something bigger than ourselves allows us to shift our consciousness from separation to oneness. We're all the same and we share the same breath. We have this source of unlimited and unconditional love to draw from that can satisfy our needs and bring healing to our souls like no other human can. And we just have to tap into that. My spiritual journey was really long and windy. For a long time, I tried to heal on my own strength. I struggled to check off all the to-do things on my list to heal, and it just became exhausting. When I finally surrendered and gave my life to Jesus, it was like all the weight I was carrying melted away. All of the bitterness, the resentment, the past traumas, the guilt and the shame that I carried on my shoulders, it just disappeared because I gave it all to God. I put my healing in His hands, and I was strengthened by His words and His promises. I remained faithful and full of hope, and I realized that nothing belonged to me. My children and my husband, they don't belong to me. They belong to God. And I could take all of the unconditional love that I needed from God, and I could give it to my loved ones. I no longer had to just give to receive. I could fill myself with His living water and let it flow through me and give to others. I could be free from living in the past and worrying about the future. I could have the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. So no matter what spiritual practice you choose, it's just important to have one. Number 6 is having strong reasons for living. What gets you out of bed every morning? Do you know why you want to live another day on this earth? Well, it doesn't really matter what your reason is, but it's important to have one. For some people, it could be stick around to care for their young children, or waiting until their sons or daughters get married, or seeing their grandchildren graduate from college. It could also be something bigger, like writing that book you've always wanted or doing something on your bucket list. So either way, the survivors in these cases of spontaneous healing have a strong commitment to life and living. They have a firm conviction that comes from deep within themselves and not from what others want for them. It's a very different thing to be focusing on living instead of trying to fight off death. They don't let their illness define them. For a long time, cancer was my identity, and I lived and breathed it, and there was just never a moment that I didn't think about having cancer. I stopped doing things that brought me joy. I stopped planning for the future. I lived in fear all the time, and I became so serious. I truly lost myself and forgot what it was like to have life without cancer. And it took me a long time to not only rediscover who I was, but also the me that I truly am, the essence of my soul. And once I got into alignment with that, I found joy and creativity again. I became lighthearted and I loosened up. I stopped taking life so seriously. I remembered the little girl in me and I tried to be more like her. I started doing things I've always wanted to do, like starting this YouTube channel. I stepped into the unknown and allowed my spirit to be free. I no longer let my illness define me because I'm so much more than that. Living your life with intention and purpose brings better mental and physical health and longevity. So find that spark in you, the light that's burning in your soul, and don't be afraid to let that light shine. The last factor is number 7, social support. Strong social connections are linked to longer life and lower rates of cancer. According to the recent U.S. Surgeon General's report, loneliness is actually more dangerous than smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Humans are highly social species and we don't do well in isolation. In the cases of spontaneous healing, the survivors always report having a strong support network. This network can be anyone, even if it's just one person, as long as they feel supported. The feeling of love and support releases healing hormones like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins, which improve your immune system, decreases inflammation, increases blood and oxygen circulation, and increases the number of white blood cells, red blood cells, helper T cells, and natural killer cells. So when you get a serious diagnosis like cancer, it can really show you who your true friends are. Some may shy away and others show up in the most unexpected ways. It's okay to let go of the people that bring negativity into your life so you can welcome new ones. Evaluate your friendships and relationships with your friends and family members. How do they make you feel after spending time with them? Does it feel like your energy is completely drained, or do you feel uplifted and refreshed? While fighting illness, you have way less energy and tolerance for others, so just make sure to spend your time wisely with the people who lift you up. Now, I'm not saying to just go and write off everyone because you don't feel supported by them. I mean, sometimes people don't understand what you're going through, and they probably want to support you and they mean well, but it may not be the type of support that you want and need. So in this case, I would suggest to communicate your needs more clearly and allow others to help you. It's also important to repair broken relationships if at all possible and practice forgiveness. Oftentimes, the people who are the closest to you are your biggest supporters, but they can also be your biggest source of stress. So being able to find the balance and live in harmony with your loved ones are so important for your healing. I'm lucky to have amazing friends and family and great support system through my work, my church community, and cancer community, but it does take a lot of work to maintain these connections. So by working on all of these healing factors, I've been able to make room for stronger and deeper connections, and it really has helped me tremendously in my healing. And I really don't think that I could heal without all of the people around me. Okay, so that's all I have for today. Thank you for tuning in and for listening. Your support really means so much to me, and I just hope that you got something insightful out of this video and that you can apply it to your own personal healing journey. So we're in this together, and I would love to see any comments that you have and anything that you would like to hear more about in the future. So yeah, leave a comment below, and I hope you have a great week with lots of peace and joy and love and healing. See you next time.